Welcome back to the Panic Room, everyone, and to an amazingly special book review today. So, guys, the day you were seeing this is the day that the brand new HorrorTube Anthology is coming out, Lurking in the Dark. And it just so happens that your girl has a story in it. Yeah, it's my very first time writing anything. I'm really petrified, to tell you guys the honest truth. I'm absolutely terrified, but it was a blast. It was a blast. It is something that I can check off my bucket list, and I love the fact that I could contribute even a tiny bit to this wonderful, beautiful HorrorTube community. If you guys don't know, the Anthology is the baby of Regina over at Regina's Haunted Library, so of course I will have her link down below. I'm sure all of you know who she is. She's an amazing person. She does oh so much for the HorrorTube communities. So guys, I thought we could do this just like I do all my anthologies. You guys know I'm a sucker for anthologies, and I have read this one, and holy crap, is it good. And honestly, guys, it was like one of the coolest experiences ever, because a lot of these stories come from people that I'm lucky enough to call friends, and this was like seeing another side of them, which I thought was really, really awesome. So I thought we could just go through, no spoilers, of course, because really, guys, this anthology is pretty amazing. It really is. If you are a creator here and you know some of these creators, I highly recommend picking it up, because you're going to get to see a whole nother side of them, you know, their author side, their writer side, right? And if you are a watcher of BookTube, then, you know, this is awesome too, because then you also get to see the people that you like to watch their videos from. You get to see this whole side of them as an author on the page. So really, it's a win-win, right? And you guys know I just love me some anthology. So let's dive in. So as if this anthology couldn't be perfect enough for me, the very first entry is a poem by author D.L. Tillery, and it is entitled Beneath the Dark. Now, obviously, I can't tell you a whole lot because it is a poem, but you guys know it's kind of near and dear to me, this whole horror poetry thing. And I was so lucky that I discovered D.L. Tillery as a poet, as an author, as a booktuber through this anthology. So I think it is an absolutely amazing way to kick off the anthology. Absolutely love it. Even if you're not into poetry and you're into horror, I still think you're going to get something out of it. It's a really awesome poem. And the one right after that happens to be from my dear demon, Mr. Morningstar. And it is called Aftermath. And if you guys don't know, he does have a whole video about how it's available on Gumroad, I'm pretty sure, Gumroad. So I will link that down below if you want to go get it like kind of standalone. It's pretty amazing. Easily probably one of the bloodiest in this entire collection, which... who's shocked, right? But I have been dying to tell you guys, there is a line from this that you guys know, I've been talking about this before in like other videos. You guys know when you read that line and you're just like, oh, because it's so good, it gives you chills. Okay, so I've been waiting months to read this line to you guys in a video because it's freaking phenomenal. Listen to this. Sometimes the instant we try to be our best selves is the very moment the devil presses his thumb between our eyes, awakening a primal urge to embrace our inner monster. I know, right? Is that not amazing? Can you see like the visual? Oh my gosh, I was like, when I read that, it was so good. Oh my gosh, it was so good. And I've literally been waiting months to read that in video. So yes, in case you can't tell, Aftermath by Morningstar, you're gonna love it. You're gonna absolutely love it. Okay, so the next story, I hope I'm not going to butcher your name. It is James Ippoliti. I really hope I didn't butcher your name. The story is called Striga, and it is pretty good too. I heard that name before. This is for all of my people who you really like to kind of be left wanting more, like you're having some questions and maybe they're going to get answered, maybe they're not. You know, this does have a creature. You know, the theme for this anthology, Lurking in the Dark, is all about like monsters. But as you guys know, that can be taken a lot of different ways. So with Striga, I have to say the thing that stood out to me, because of course I can't give you a whole lot. These are shorter stories. But, you know, suffice it to say you have a man who is going through some shit, right? And a creature. But what I really think stands out about this is the way it was written. I love it when I read a story and it seems like the person is in the room talking to me. That's what I got from this, like just the style of James's writing. I thought it was really cool. I really did. And case in point, the very last line, he would feel inspired to strive for more, to live, laugh, love. Nah, he just wasn't made for such stuff. You see what I mean? Like, it's very conversational. I love that. I love that. I think it brings the story really down to earth and kind of involves you that much deeper, when you can really feel like you're just talking to someone or someone's telling it to you. So I think if you enjoy that style, you're gonna love Striga by James Ippoliti. So next up is Bad Moon Rising by Amy McCall. This is for my werewolf people out there. Now, again, can't give you a whole lot because it is a short story. So I don't know if anybody else is gonna get this, but I had some hardcore 80s vibes with some of these scenes, and I love that. I loved it. It was so cool. And, you know, I really think that that is a strength of Amy's based on what I've read. I think she sets a scene really well. Really well. Because, you know, this was kind of, it was fun at parts, and then it was like, you flip a switch and all of a sudden here comes the spooky parts, the scary parts, right? And not only that, you're dealing with a very classic type monster, and she kind of puts her own spin on it, which is awesome. You know, she kind of brings it into today, but still keeps a lot of that tradition alive as well. So, Amy McCall, Bad Moon Rising. So the next one, Split the Flesh by Oliver Seneca. I hope I'm saying that right as well. So this story blew me away with the descriptions. This is one of those stories where they're describing a scene outside and you start to smell the mist or the rain, or you can feel the sun. You guys have been there, you know what I'm talking about. Oliver killed it with this story, I thought, because there's a character who is performing an illegal act, and he ends up in a very precarious situation, let's say. And the way they describe him, like walking up to this house, just the descriptions of like the weather and the night and the grasses even, like it's just so good. The descriptions just really pop in this story. I think he did an absolutely amazing job describing and setting the scene. The story is spooky, it's scary, but honest to God, what really draws you in to me is this whole like feel that you get for this setting. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. It's just really well done. So, Split the Flesh by Oliver Seneca. The next one, oh my gosh, I laughed my ass off at parts with this next one. Titanium by Alexandra Challoner. Again, I'm so sorry if I'm butchering you guys' names. If you're new around here, I do this all the time. I really apologize. But Titanium, it was so unique. So stinking unique. Oh my gosh. I can't tell you why it was unique, okay? And when I tell you, like, kind of the premise, you're gonna be like, what the hell is wrong with you, Pax? There's this woman who has a cancer scare, okay? And then it just goes off the rails. I've mentioned this book before, John Dies at the End. If you are a fan of that book, you are going to love Titanium. I don't know, it's so wacky and it's fun. And don't get me wrong, you know, it has some spooky parts. It definitely fulfills that monster, okay? But in the weirdest possible way, and it does a great job. It's so much fun. It is literally one of the most unique in this collection, in my opinion. I loved it. Loved it. It was so much fun. So, Titanium by Alexandra Challoner. Okay, and the next one, so Kugel. I love his channel. Of course, I'm gonna have all these people that I can find linked down below, okay? Kugel is criminally undersubbed, all right? I was really looking forward to seeing what he could do in this anthology, and oh my gosh, did he not disappoint. We have Truckenstein Must Die. Is that not the best title in the world? So, again, I'm going to mention John Dies at the End, and I know for a fact that he is either reading it or has read this. I can see the influence. You are essentially going after this monster that revolves around driving a truck. The scenes in this whole thing, I don't want to give too much away, but about, you know, like the superpower that our main character has. And I use that term loosely, but the scenes in this, they have that element of horror, but kind of humorous horror in a way. Again, the best example I can think of is John Dies at the End. Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. This could have been a scene out of that book, and I don't know if he was influenced by it, but if he was, he did a damn fine job. So, Truckenstein Must Die by Kugel. So the next story was called Werewolf of Distinction by Austin Smith, and I'm going to kind of like compare and contrast this one with the Amy McCall story, Bad Moon Rising, because I love how these two stories, even though they both had the same like kind of main monster type person, they are drastically different. Drastically different, and that is such a wonderful thing in an anthology because you can take this one idea of a monster, and even the same monster, and make it so different and yet keep an awesome story. So Austen really went down the path of like the tortured soul and kind of the war that goes on. You know, I've seen it explored in movies like Underworld, for example. This war that goes on between, you know, the non-humans and the humans. Austen really explored that. If you like that, you're going to love Werewolf of Distinction, because it really goes down that path. He does like that tortured soul animal, whatever you want to call it. He does that well. And it's got a twist ending, which I thought was really cool. Austen did an amazing job with that ending. I really wasn't seeing that particular twist coming. And admittedly, I don't read a whole lot of werewolf stuff, but I really wasn't seeing that particular ending coming. So I think Austen did a fantastic job. This is really going to cater to those of you who like that like folklore-y type werewolf. You know, the ones that kind of goes into the lineage and the wars and the feelings of someone who has to deal with this change and whatnot. I think you're gonna love this. So, Werewolf of Distinction by Austen Smith. Okay, and the next one, Diplomatic Immunity by Dave over at Book Blather. Dave and Olive? Yeah, I know you know him. This is another one that I've been waiting to talk about. Okay, of course, no spoilers. Do you guys ever like just wonder where authors get these ideas for creatures? Like, you know, you have your normal, you know, vampire, werewolf, you know, robber, murderer, all that. But then you have some authors that, sci-fi especially, that they come up with these amazing creatures. And, you know, I've had this whole, like, fascination with that way back when I read the Animorph series, because there was a ton of, like, aliens and stuff in there. And it always intrigued me how an author could think about these different, like, body forms and powers and all this stuff. Dave killed it. One of the creatures in this story, oh my gosh, it's phenomenal. It is so good. And I'm just like, how did you think of this? How did you think of this? Like, it's gory. It's gory, but this whole world he sets up is just amazing. He takes some elements of like a well-known monster, but then he flips it on its head with, you know, kind of like the other monster that is existing in this world. And then you have these wonderful elements kind of contrasted with that of like politics, you know, and war and like business and stuff like that. Because, you know, that's so normal. And then like the shit that happens in his story is like not normal, you know, so he has a lot of elements here. I really think that, having watched Dave for a while, I think that I can really see a lot of not only a horror influence, but maybe a touch of some sci-fi, like with the creation of the creature. It was just so good. It was so good. Now this is 110% horror. My horror people, you're gonna love some of the descriptions of the action that happen here, but oh my gosh, you're gonna absolutely eat up this character. So, Diplomatic Immunity by Dave over at Book Blather. Alright guys, so the next one has another one of my favorite titles, The Feelings of Sheep. And this is by Andrew Y'all? I'm probably butchering that, I'm so sorry. Y'all is definitely in my vernacular, but I'm really sorry about all these names that I'm butchering. This story, I don't even know where to begin. It was one of those that I have often described as like beautiful, but only to my horror people, okay? When you read it, you're gonna know what I'm talking about. The way that it is laid out, it is so descriptive, and yet somehow it never loses you. Like, you are intrigued because you're seeing through these particular eyes of your narrator and what she's going through. And it has some elements of like tradition, some old-timey stuff happening, you know, talking about like going to the old world and things like this. And I love the connection that he drew from what's happening to the narrator now and the past. It was never like flashback, let's tell this, flash forward, let's tell this. It was blended beautifully, absolutely beautifully. It told a cohesive story, yet you got action now, and the reason for the action, you know, that occurred in the past, kind of off screen, so to speak. Oh, and then the end. Oh, my horror people, you're gonna love it. Absolutely love it. There's a transformation that happens that is just great. I don't know how else to describe it. Fantastic. There's so much emotion in this. Like, you really get into the head of your narrator. And I really think that a ton of you are going to just absolutely dig on this story, especially just the raw beauty of it. There's just something about the way he constructs this, the way he's describing the action, that I thought was breathtaking. I loved it. So, Andrew Y'all, The Feelings of Sheep. Okay, so the next one, Severance Pay by Cam Wolfe. So this one's for my zombie people, but I'm gonna ask you guys, do you remember there was a movie, and I'll pop it up here, I'm sure editing me will find it. I think it was called Devil, and the entirety or most of the movie took place in an elevator. This story reminded me of that, simply because it starts in an elevator, but there's more to it than that. So you are following this guy who is just your average Joe, really. You know, he says things that I think all of us have thought about our job at some point, and antics ensue. And I'm going to tell you guys straight up, I'm not usually a zombie fan. It's not high on my list. But this story kept me reading, and I'll tell you why. Cam set it up well because he opens with kind of like letting you know the narrator's personality. And, you know, I got to like him. In a very short amount of time, I kind of liked him because I was like, wow, he's kind of a jerk and funny, and I'm all for that. So, you know, you kind of like get into this guy's head at first, and then the antics start to ensue. And one of my problems with zombie stuff is that it's very repetitive. Cam did a very good job in this story of setting up the scene. It wasn't just like zombies, you know, or, you know, disease or whatever. There's this whole scene about trying to get out of the elevator that completely speaks to another fear outside of what the story's about, you know, like getting trapped in something like that. And then you kind of come full circle at the end, and I'm not going to tell you any more than that, but it's really good. It is. It's very good. I think I would equate this to people who don't like zombies but love The Walking Dead. I think the reason for success with a show like The Walking Dead, even someone like myself who doesn't really dig on zombies, is that the focus of the show is not zombie, it's these characters and survival and, you know, getting into their lives. That's what Cam did. So if you're like me and you're not really big on zombies, I still think you're going to enjoy Cam's story because he focuses on like the action, not on, oh, look what's happening out here. He's focused on your character, and that will keep you engaged, I think. So Cam Wolfe, Severance Pay. So the next one is called The Passenger, and it's by Matt Wall. And it's very like set up like prose. I think what's really going to stand out to a lot of the readers of this, especially my people who enjoy dark poetry or like darker prose, is the descriptions. Particularly about the beast that this revolves around. Again, I can't tell you a whole lot. On my Kindle, this is like 2 pages, so I don't want to give a whole lot away. Suffice it to say, the descriptions in this are really kick-ass. I think you guys are going to love them. So Matt Wall, The Passenger. Okay, so the next one takes us back old school again. The next one is called Zipper Face by Nicholas Gray. Okay, this is for all of you who love like those old school slasher, you know, like, oh, there's something in the woods kind of stories. Oh my gosh. So the title says it all. Your story is about a character by the name of Zipperface. And, you know, you follow this young man and his adventures as a young man and, you know, their want to get into trouble, you know, and things that happen in the woods. It was really well done. It was just enough to make me think of stuff like Freddy Krueger and like the kids fighting him, or Jason and stuff like that. Like, it really had those vibes. If you like that, I really think you're gonna love this. There was a smattering of gore, you know, obviously, you know, you got some zippers on people's faces. I mean, come on. There's a smattering of that, not overly so, but I really think this one shines as, you know, one of those that is going to make you nostalgic. You know, at least my horror people. I think it's going to shine for my horror people. It's going to make you nostalgic of all of those classic movies where you have these young people kind of going after or fighting an entity or a monster in the woods that is kind of terrorizing the town. So, Zipperface by Nicholas Gray. So the next story is called The Angela, and it is by the woman herself, Regina R. St. Clair. And this one, this one is so cool. It had all of those like Lovecraftian feels to me, okay? And it's set on an ocean, you know, on a boat, the Angela. And there's a creature that lurks down below. And if you're scared of water or you can't swim like some people, it's gonna scare you. And let me explain the whole thing about Lovecraft. Like, she sets the scene beautifully, like chef's kiss. The scene is phenomenal. As somebody who knows jack about boats, like, I could see it. I could see everything that was happening. She does an amazing job at describing the creature. I'm not going to go any farther than that because I don't want to ruin it for you. But the creature himself has like this amazing like Lovecraft type feel to it. Like, you know, very eldritch terror, I guess. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I think you guys get what I mean. Like, it's very otherworldly almost, you know, and it's like thrust into our reality in this story. So Oh, so good, so good. This is another one that the descriptions are just phenomenal. So, The Angela by R. St. Clair. So the next one was cool. It's just titled very simply Skull by A.B. Frank. And this one takes place way back, you know, around like the 1890s, very late, almost 1900s. So that kind of sets the scene for you. In my head, I was thinking like a small town, you know, very out in the country, very away from people, you know, and you have like a murder mystery that's happening. And there's a man who is going to try to solve this, and he does, but it doesn't really work out well for him. And there's a twist ending to it too. So I can't really go any farther than that, but this is another one that I think really hides the twists well. So, Skull by A.B. Frank. Okay, so the next one, The Horror at Dyer's Grove by Jason White. This is another one I was looking forward to seeing what he could do, and he didn't disappoint. So I loved how Jason set this up. He was another one that really started off strong, getting you acquainted with your narrator. And, you know, that of course makes you invested, right? And then, this is probably the biggest twist one to me. I don't know why, it snuck up on me. So you have this girl who has like a boyfriend for all intents and purposes. So she sneaks out one night because he wants her to come over and look at something that he has caught, hunted, whatever. And yeah, bad things happen, okay? Bad things happen. I'm not gonna tell you what it is, but bad things happen. But the end is kind of dark. Like, it's bloody, it's a great scary story, but then the end you're like, damn, you know, like it gets dark in like the span of 2 sentences, and it's really good, it's really good. I wasn't anticipating that. Like, it kind of, you know, sent a little chill down my spine. At the end you're like, oh, maybe, no. So, Jason White's The Horror at Dyer's Grove. All right, so the next one is from Jeremy Fee. I'm sure a lot of you know him. This is another one I was looking forward to. And I hope I don't butcher this title, The Wendigoner. I think it's The Wendigoner. It reminded me of The Wendigo in a lot of ways. Not exactly, but in a lot of ways it kind of reminded me of that. So this is another one that I can't give you a whole lot, but suffice it to say you have this guy and his boyfriend, and they have to go help this dude's father with something, and it goes really wrong. And the moral of the story, kids, is don't be an idiot and hunt things like this man was hunting, okay? No amount of money is worth it. And I think Jeremy did a really good job describing emotion in this one. Like, the emotions of the two men as they're watching this action go down were phenomenal. He did an amazing job describing that. Like, I could see their faces. That's how well he did it. So, Jeremy Fee's The Wendigoner. All right, and the next one, all of you know her as Harpies in the Trees, Mares, and this is Don't Go Into the Forest. She did such an amazing job just telling a story. And I know you're like, what the hell does that mean? When I finished the story, I almost felt like I had just finished talking to someone who had been told this story firsthand, like from across a table at a cafe. It's so well done. Everything from the scenery to the plot, I thought it was all just perfect. It worked. And, you know, if you're like me, if you like that folk horror, this really had a beautiful taste of folk horror in it. And I would love to know, you guys know I don't research any of this, there seems to be like perhaps some cultural traditions that go into this, like maybe there's some stories that this was based on. And if not, that's how well it's done, because that's what it made me think. Like, maybe this was based on some like folk tales from history that I was not aware of. You are following a woman as she travels for this particular purpose to a farm, and things happen. And you guys are going to recognize a lot of the plot points, but stick with it because the ending is wonderful. And I really think that Mares does a wonderful job marrying all of those elements together. You know, you have that folk horror, you have scenery descriptions, all of this. She even does an amazing job with the dialect, like giving them the accent just to draw you in that much more, you know, into this world. So Don't Go Into the Forest by our very own Mares over at Harpies in the Trees. And the next one is from my very dear friend Edie Lewis over at Edie Lewis Reviews, and his story is called One Lonesome Night. And I really thought this one was well done too. I was kind of hoping that he would go down the route of the particular type of monster that he chose. Now, granted, it's his own spin on it, so that should intrigue you right there. But I really like his descriptions. I like how, you know what, this kind of gave me some Poppy Z. Bright vibes, okay? I don't know what it was. Not to that level, like not to that extreme, so no worries if you're not into that, but it really, the same way of like the setting, you know, something about the way the character spoke and acted, I really got a lot of Poppy Z Bright vibes. But Edie really packed a lot of action into a very short amount of pages. And it's one of those that when you think back on it, you're like, wow, you know, you went from point A to point B lightning quick, and it kind of almost sneaks up on you. And it's one of those stories where you get to this point, like the main character is getting ready to make a decision to do something, and you're like, no, stop, you idiot. You know, and I love that. I love when you can get that invested in something. So, Edie Lewis, One Lonesome Night. Oh my gosh, and the next one, Guilt Trip by James Flynn. This was so good. This is almost like, okay, for all of you that like those, like, I don't want to call it coming of age. The best example I can think of is like It. That it takes place like, you know, it starts when you're younger and it continues and it like haunts the main character and it changes him in some way. That's this story. Like, you have something happen and it kind of underscores a lot of this character's life. And come to find out, you know, something was created when this particular action occurred, when this man was young with his friends, and he has to kind of go back and take care of it and take responsibility for it. Oh, I don't even want to tell you. It has to do with a serial killer, but there's so much more than that. It is so good. Just, you're gonna have to read it. It's so good. Especially the ending, because you're kind of like, damn, like you kind of feel bad for the guy at the very end, whereas you were blaming him at the beginning. Like, you kind of have this shift happen. It's just so good. And for my body horror people, there's a little bit of that sprinkled in there too. Again, not too much. I don't think you have to worry too much, but there's some of that sprinkled in there too. This was phenomenal. Phenomenal. Easily one of my favorites. It was so, so good. So, Guilt Trip by James Flynn. So the next one, I love this title. Little Wolfie Nipperkin by Michael Taylor. I love that title. And, you know, with that title making me laugh, I was like, maybe this will be like in the same vein as, you know, like Amy McCall's story, you know, kind of like 80s vibes or whatever. No, this is completely different. And I want to point out here that this is maybe, I want to say like the third werewolf kind of story in this book. They're all so drastically different. And I love that. I love that so much. So you have this town that is being stalked by a creature and something happens. And the action happens to kind of revolve around this pregnant woman and kind of the result of what happens when this pregnant woman runs into this particular monster. And really, that is the catalyst for the action, but it is not the main point of the story, because your story is being told to you kind of like as a campfire tale. And I like that. It gives me Are You Afraid of the Dark vibes. So you kind of have this element of almost like a folk tale or like a warning tale for these children who are listening to this around the campfire. It's good. It's good. And I love that title, Little Wolfie Nipperkin. But if you like that kind of horror, if you like, you know, like stories that teach a lesson or stories that explain something that is happening in the present day or could happen in the present day, you're really going to like this. So, Little Wolfie Nipperkin by Michael Taylor. So the next story is called Growing Love. And it is from our very own Juan over at Plagued by Visions. And let me just say that he does not disappoint. This is everything that you would have expected from the brilliant mind that he brings to his YouTube channel. I don't know how I can describe this to you. There is an entity that dwells inside of a person, and things happen. And that is really all I can give you. It is gory. It is amazing, though. It is so good. My horror people, if you like Plagued by Visions, which I'm sure if you're here, all of you do, you're just going to love it. You're going to love it. It's beautiful. It is one of those stories that is beautiful to my horror people. If you're not a horror person and you read it, you're going to be like, you're insane, Pax. But if you are a horror lover, you are going to like this. You are going to see the beauty, especially in the writing. The writing is, oh my gosh. The descriptions they're gory, but then there's this particular thing that happens when the person in the story is being indwelt that I think is incredibly unique. It makes complete sense from like an animalistic, predatory kind of deal. It's just so good. Just read it once. Growing Love. And the last story is titled very simply Midnight by Marie McWilliams. And this was very short, but to me it was one of those that really had a lot of like dread into it. You know, you have these children who things are happening to them and no one's really believing them, and it's really horrible, and you know, the story doesn't really give you a happy ending or really any ending at all. You're just kind of left to wonder, and there's so much dread. It's one of the shorter stories, but there's so much dread packed into this. It's amazing. It was really good, and you're kind of reading it like, oh God, are they gonna be okay? You know, so stuff like that. Like, at least I was. So again, one of the shorter ones, but I really think this one had a lot of dread, and it really packed a punch in a very short amount of time. So, Midnight by Marie McWilliams. All right, guys, that's it. The Lurking in the Dark HorrorTube Anthology. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know this is going to be a bit of a longer video, but oh my gosh, I'm excited for this. I can't believe that I am lucky enough to be in the pages with all of these amazing people. And I'm telling you guys, if you enjoy horror anthologies, I really don't think you're going to be disappointed in this one. You have such a variety here. And I really love how you have this collection of people that love horror, and you can see it through all these different eyes. Like, I love horror, but I love it in my way. So in this book, I get to see how my friends love horror too. And if you're an avid watcher of Horror BookTube, you're gonna get another side of these creators. And I'm here to tell you, they killed it. They did an amazing job, all of them. I really truly think there's something for everybody in this anthology. And I just have to say a huge, massive thank you to Regina. Oh my gosh, I'm just dying. I hope you guys enjoy this anthology. Please, if you read it, if you pick it up, comment down below, let me know. And of course, when you read it, come back, tell me your favorites. I would love to know. But guys, I will have the information down below. Like I said at the beginning of the video, it is live today. So I hope you guys do consider picking it up. And guys, thank you for hanging out for this video. I know it was a long one, and I do appreciate you sticking around. Please, if you like this, hit like, hit subscribe. It would really help me out. And until next time, bye for now.